Hey guys, since I just recently had some scar repair work done to my FUT scar, I thought it'd be a great time to answer a question that one of my viewers, vman14854, asked me. Hey David, I was wondering if you could talk about your scar in a video. Can you feel your scar when you move your head? Can you feel it when you touch the back of your head? How long do you have to wait to work out again with no threat to your scar stretching? And how short could you cut your hair without showing the scar? Would love to hear your thoughts on the positives and negatives with having the scar in the back. I'm going to do my best to show you my scar, but I just had some body hair transplanted into it, so it might look a little bit strange. This is the most obvious scar that I have, is right here. All the others are a little bit smaller. I have to be careful also not to disturb my grafts. We're just planted in there. I've also had previously a little bit of SMP put in the scar, so it's going to look colored a little bit. You guys probably know when you have an FUT or linear procedure hair transplant done, which sort of for a while was like the gold standard, and I think in some ways still it's called the gold standard for a few reasons. We'll go into some of those things later and some reasons why you might or might not want to have that done. But you get a scar. And now the scar sometimes can be very, very minimal. I actually have 3 scars because I have 3 of those procedures done. So the guy who did my first 2 procedures, I don't really like to talk about him, partly because he left me with some pretty big scars. He went a little bit too low and from the donor area in the back, actually outside of what's called the safe zone. And also the lower that you go on the neck here, the more likely that there will be stretching and scarring. So then the third procedure I had with Dr. Daniel McGrath, he only took hair from the safe zone, and it's a very minimal scar, and I've never even seen the scar, when I've had any kind of haircut even. So they've gone pretty far down, and I've never seen that scar. I can kind of tell you about what it's like to have both, okay scars or very, very reasonable scars and also pretty big ones. So I'll answer the first question. Can you feel your scar when you move your head? No, I cannot feel the scar at all. None of them can I feel when I move my head. Now the third surgery that I had, that was the tightest my scalp was, and that was the biggest scar that I did get. And my scalp and just everything was kind of tight for about a week or 2 weeks. But after that, everything went back to feeling completely normal. And I've never actually heard of anyone who didn't go back to feeling normal in that way, though maybe there's someone out there. But your skin generally just kind of stretches. So that's a good thing because you'll go back to feeling normal, but it's a bad thing if it stretches because that leaves you with a larger scar. Can you feel your scar when you touch the back of your head? Yes, the largest one that I've got, I can totally feel that scar when I touch the back of my head. I mean, I know where it's at. It's not a big deal, but, I know where it's at, and it's about this thick. So, I mean, I can definitely feel, okay, there's the scar, because that's a space where there's no hair. How long do you have to work out again with no threat of your scar stretching? Well, generally, if you have an FUT surgery, doctors will say that you should go as long as you sort of can without working out heavily or lifting heavy weights, because that gives your scar more time to heal. But I would say about a month is good. Don't do any kind of heavy anything for at least 2 weeks. And after that, you can get back into a little bit into working out. And then I'd probably give it about after a month, you should be able to just do anything you want, heavy wise. But sort of the longer you give it, the more healing there is. The scar stretching has a lot to do with actually where the scar is placed and how tight your skin is pulled. So if a doctor's really being aggressive and just really trying to just get your scalp as tight as possible to get the most skin out, then that could lead to more of a scar, even more so necessarily than just working out, instead of waiting a month, working out after 3 weeks. Because most of the scars are pretty well healed after about 2 weeks. How short could I cut my hair without showing the scar? I'm not sure of the exact length, but I can just show you with my fingers. So about like this, because that's my largest scar, is about like that. So I'm going to say I need about a centimeter to be able to cover all the scars, about a centimeter. So, I definitely can't have my hair, well, maybe now I can because I'm getting my scar repaired, but we'll get into that in a second. But until having the scar repaired, definitely, you know, I can't do that sort of like super close fade sort of haircut. So I need to have at least probably about a centimeter or a little bit less than a centimeter all the way around. Well, not all the way around, not like in the sideburns and stuff, but sort of in the back to make sure that the scar is completely covered. If I cut it a little bit shorter than that, I mean, you can kind of see there's a scar, but it's not really noticeable. I think you'd have to be someone who'd had a hair transplant or was like super familiar with hair transplants to have any idea that that's what it was. It would just look like, because I've showed it to other people, here's my hair transplant scar. And they're like, oh, you know, I would have just thought that your hair just sort of was like that, you know? So to my thoughts on the positives and negatives of having the scar. Well, that sort of comes down to the positives and negatives of having FUE surgery, which is, you know, more like where they take the little dots like they did here on my neck, and having that done versus having FUT. So either way, whether you have FUE or FUT surgery, if you have good body hair and you have tons of money, well then you could actually get a body hair transplant done like I'm doing here from my neck hair, because I have good body hair, especially my beard hair really matches my head hair quite well. So I have very coarse head hair, and this just matches it. So I'm kind of lucky that way. Not everyone is a good match that way. And beard hair, chest hair, those are the two things that if you've got a good match, that those can be really good for covering up scars. Now, here's the problem. Body hair transplants, there's not a lot of people that do them, and they're super expensive. So that's, kind of where an issue comes in. The other thing is, it also comes down to money, getting an FUT surgery versus an FUE surgery. The top surgeons in the world who do both FUE and FUT, they charge less money for FUT than FUE. FUE is a much more labor-intensive skill. And in many ways, it's a much more complicated skill, because it's kind of hard to explain until you've had it done to you, but it is very, very difficult to not transect grafts. I mean, I've watched 3 different surgeons work on me very up close, and to be able to see, and I can look in their glasses and see them right up close on top of me, the way that they're trying to judge where the actual follicle is growing inside of your skin without being able to see it, because there's no way to see through your skin. So there's no machine that does that. You can only guess by years of doing it. And then even then, you're trying to take this tiny hole punch, which is basically the same size as about a hair follicle, and because you don't want to leave a big scar. That would defeat the whole point of FUE surgery. So it's actually really difficult to do that well, and it takes a long time. To get these 700 grafts out of my beard, for instance, that took about 8 hours, 8, 9, 10 hours. It was like a long day. I got done, I think, at 1 in the morning, and we started at 4 or something like that. So that was a very, very long day. Maybe even 3. We started at 3 or so. So on the other hand, FUT, you can move more hair in one surgery. And because it's not quite as labor intensive, it's generally less expensive, especially from the top surgeons who do both FUE and FUT generally charge less for FUT, and they'll move more hair for you for less. So if money is one of the biggest issues for you, and you need a lot of hair moved, or you don't want to have as many surgeries, and you just really don't like the idea of going back, to have more surgeries, FUT could be better. On the other hand, if money is unlimited and you're not worried about that at all, well then FUE is probably a better option. Especially, I think it's a better option if you also have good body hair that can be used later. Reason being that with FUE surgery, well, once you get tons of those polka dots taken out of the back of your head, it can have sort of a moth-eaten look and I've got some good friends that have amazing FUE results. Ridiculous. But by that time, because they've taken out so many grafts out of the back of their head in order to get that really good result, the hair around here was very thin. And, most people probably wouldn't notice it, but, one of my friends, he very much noticed it and just didn't like that it was very thin around the sides. So he went back and had beard hair transplant and got the beard hair transplant, then transplanted into many of the polka dots kind of on the back of his head, And now he has this incredible result. Amazing hair on top because he got all the FUE grafts, and then he shaves this short so it doesn't really matter that he has beard hair because it's not growing out anyway. It just needs to look, kind of like his hair. And now he has great looking hair on the sides too. He's a pretty wealthy guy, and he, really picked amazing surgeons. He went to the top FUE surgeons for the regular FUE and the body hair transplants. So, there's definitely that option. So either way, the scar can be fixed. It's just sort of what path you choose and making sure that you do have a good plan of, and you've talked to some kind of experts that can tell you, okay, cool, like, you don't have the right beard hair in order for us to fix the scar with the beard hair. You don't have any chest hair. Like, you're, have very little hair on your chest, very little hair on your face. We can't use any of that stuff to fix the scar. Just all of these things that need to be worked out in advance so that you don't end up in a bad place. So as long as you've considered all this and you're watching this video, so you've got a really good idea, hopefully, then you should be fine really either way with the scar. Hope that